struggling over the last few years just to be able to have one. But I think it is also worth looking into having a joint SRO with possibly Leavenworth County Sheriff and the Lansing PD. So that way we have a county representative, as we have a lot of students that do live in the county, that could help take care of issues in that aspect as well.
Of everything that a Board of Education has to consider, safety is at the very top of the list. Everyone who walks into our buildings, the teacher, the staff, the student, deserves to feel safe and supported. When teachers don't feel safe, it affects not only their ability to teach, but also our efforts to retain those great educators. We need to make sure our discipline policies are being consistently followed, that we have enough support staff to address behavioral issues, especially when they're recurring behavioral issues, and that we're working with families to reinforce expectations at home and in the classroom. Classroom disruptions interfere with the learning process of every student. When teachers know the district has their back, they're able to focus on teaching and inspiring our students.
What is your philosophy of special education? How would you advocate for special education programs and services?
So my philosophy of special education, So my philosophy is that just because some kids may be a part of special education, it doesn't make them any different than every other kid. And every kid in the school deserves the same attention and resources. I'm sorry, could you repeat the second part of the question?
How would you advocate for special education programs and services?
Okay. So yeah, I would advocate, I have advocated for special education programs and services since being on the board. I feel like special education is a very vital part of the district. As we all know, it is a very large budget line item as well. I think many people probably don't realize that special education kids are probably some of the smartest kids we have in our schools. And a lot of those kids are the ones that's gonna grow up and be leaders in this nation. So I think we need to do anything we can to try to help those kids succeed. And I think we do a great job of finding points that need improvement and intervening where they need it to make them able to succeed.
Special education isn't just a program, it's a cornerstone of public education. Every child has a right to a strong education, and for some students that means receiving specific services or accommodations to help them reach their potential. Our students have a wide range of needs, from developmental or physical disabilities to sensory or intellectual differences, and even gifted education. I enjoyed Cassandra's presentation last night. I kind of learned a little bit more about our special ed program. It's our responsibility to have strong systems in place to identify students who need support, to provide appropriate services, and to regularly evaluate how effective those supports are.
So the Kansas Constitution is pretty clear that every student deserves an equitable learning experience commensurate with their needs and circumstances. Students requiring special education services are no exception. The Individuals with Disability Act and other legal requirements may define the program's scope, but beyond those requirements, SPED services reflect the district's commitment to every student's education. Senator Donald's presentation at the Board of Education meeting last night highlighted Lansing SPED program's comprehensive approach to support our students, led by trained specialists committed to each student's growth and development. I've witnessed the power of special education services on the growth and development of friends and colleagues' children. My daughter worked with special education students in Lansing prior to starting grad school, and I saw the joy she derived from her experiences teaching those students. We mentioned earlier about funding. We have to fully fund our special education requirements, but importantly, we have to advocate for the state to meet its 92% funding mandate that is codified in Kansas law. We have to enforce our current policy, IDAD, reflecting Title I, and IDACA on SPED services that reflect providing educational services commensurate with our students' needs and ensure compliance with the IDEA Act to support the allocation of our federal dollars. And at the end of the day, oppose any measure which reduces SPED services to the benefit of other education and degradation of that education.
What steps would you take to ensure students from all backgrounds have equal access to opportunities?
Our students come from all kinds of backgrounds, socioeconomic differences, religious, ethnic, just to name a few. And our responsibility is to make sure every single one of them has equal access to opportunities in our schools. Communication is the key to understanding where barriers might exist. We know our schools do so much more than teach academics. They provide vision and dental screenings, they run food pantries, they help connect families with community resources. Sometimes it's about recognizing a language barrier or being sensitive to a family's religious traditions. Families need to know that we're here to help, that school is more than reading, writing, and arithmetic, and as a district, we have to build trust by meeting families' needs with both compassion and respect for their dignity.
So diversity in our school is a strength, and that represents our student body. I'm firm in my commitment to every student's educational success in our amazing schools. I trust that our educational professionals to research, identify, and recommend the most viable, evidence-based practices that enable student learning and success. But as Jackie so eloquently stated, it's more than just education. We'll provide them a pathway to what their life is going to be after high school. That may be going to college. It may be a vocational track. It may be our military. It may be community service and being a first responder. At the end of the day, the academics and the programs we provide at the district must support all pathways. That's why when I think about not just the great tools we use to enhance our educational student achievement, but the expanding of the career and technical education pathways for those who are looking vocationally. The virtual school model that supports underserved students in our community. And all the different activities that we have at the school. Sports, performing arts, band, choir, debate, the CNA program. There are so many different opportunities that will provide students an opportunity once they graduate from school and begin their life as adults. So every opportunity matters, and we have to provide them that access.
I think we do a pretty good job right now of providing equal opportunities for all ethnical backgrounds currently. It starts as early as kindergarten, early childhood, when we're using the Fast Bridge monitoring system to monitor strengths and weaknesses, and we're intervening at a young age. And as they go up through elementary school to intermediate, we're continuing that process. And we hope that those kids can work themselves out of intervention, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes new kids fall into it. And I think that's the great thing about it, is that it's a continuing rotating process. It might not be the same kids. So in my eyes, that we're doing what we need to do. And as Greg mentioned, once they're in high school, there's so many opportunities here at Lansing with the CTE programs, the AP dual credit programs, and all the extracurricular activities as well. Extracurriculars, I've been a strong advocate for all them because I believe that a lot of the extracurriculars are what gets some kids to further education, to college. Because a lot of kids, I mean, let's just face it, they might not be able to afford to go to college without a band scholarship, without a debate scholarship, without football. And I think we do a very good job of giving every kid in the district an opportunity to succeed.
How do you think schools should support students' mental health and well-being?
Great question, because students are the focal point of our education system. And just as we discussed, beyond meeting academic requirements, students may experience a lack of confidence or a range of emotions as they adjust to a new grade level, teacher expectations, try out for different extracurricular activities, and engage socially with their peers. Our counselors provide a trusted space for students to share those concerns and receive professional guidance to support a pathway forward. We must ensure our district counselors, staff, and administrators have the resources necessary to provide the social emotional support our students need. We must also trust and support our teachers and staff who know our students well, to proactively engage those students when they notice changes in student behaviors or demeanor. And they can assess those students during conversations, and they can guide students towards a guidance counselor if they need additional assistance. We need to also solicit input from the site council to obtain a broad perspective on student mental well-being considerations, insights from the building leadership team and the district leadership teams, to define and understand ways our valued employees believe more can be done in the social emotional space, enhance the learning opportunities for our students to grow as confident, empowered individuals.
Just like teachers who feel safe and supported and are more satisfied in their work, students who feel safe and supported are more successful in school. We have to create an environment where all of our students know they belong and where it's okay to ask for help. Programs that build self-confidence and connection can make a big difference for all of our students. Having a highly qualified, fully staffed mental health team can help to reduce the stigma around seeking support. And just as important, we need to partner with parents, because when families and schools work together, we can spot concerns early and respond with the right kind of support. Finally, making sure our teachers and staff are trained to recognize signs of distress, help us connect students with help before a situation becomes a crisis.
I think first and foremost, we need to promote a positive learning environment in the district. And that should start at the Board of Education. And then it should funnel down through our superintendent, and then he should funnel it down through all of our staff. That is, in my opinion, is number one, is to provide a positive learning environment for every child, to where they feel safe, welcomed, and loved when they walk in those doors. Number two, counselors and social workers play a very vital part of our students' everyday life. And I know that we are pretty close on our numbers with students compared to counselor social worker ratios. And I think when those come up in our building needs assessment that, hey, we need to look at more counselors or another social worker, I think it is a responsibility of the board to take that into serious consideration, as mental health for our students is probably one of the top 3 things, I would say, of importance. Without a positive mental track every day, then the students aren't going to learn, and they're going to be on a path where they will not succeed.
How do you approach issues around book bans, curriculum censorship, or discussion of race, gender, and history in the classrooms?
How do I approach the issue? So I've been involved in a few of these issues. And for me personally, I look to our professionals. I do not have an education background, and I'm willing to admit that right here in front of all you. So that is why the board hires the teachers and the staff that we have. You guys are the professionals. And for any curriculum challenge that may go to a review committee, that is what I'm looking for, is the summary from that review committee. The same with books. We have a policy for books. We have a policy for curriculum. And I trust the processes that we have in place. Could something slip through the cracks? Yes, it could. And if it does, then that's the responsibility of us to address it at that time. But my number one factor is I am looking to everyone out here tonight that's a learning professional, and I am trusting your opinion.
I believe our schools should provide students with a well-rounded education that encourages